I collapsed on stage in front of 4,000 people. They cut open my skull 3 hours later. And while I was fighting for my life on an operating table, my family was boarding a plane and they knew. My name is Nadia. I'm 23 years old. And 2 months ago, I stood at the edge of the rest of my life and nearly fell off it, literally. I was the valedictorian of my graduating class. I had a 4.0 GPA, a teaching fellowship lined up for the fall, and a 7-minute speech I had rewritten 11 times. I was ready. I had been preparing for that moment for 4 years through exhaustion, silence, and the kind of quiet suffering that doesn't show up on a report card. But here's what I didn't know as I walked toward that podium. I had a tumor pressing against the front of my brain. The doctors would later tell me it had been growing for at least 2 years. That all those migraines I chalked up to stress, all those nosebleeds I explained away with dry air, all those moments when the room tilted and my vision smeared at the edges, that was the tumor saying hello. I didn't listen. Because in my family, you didn't stop. You didn't ask for help. You just handled it. That's the role I was born into. The one who handles it. Before I take you to that stage, before I take you to the moment the microphone fell out of my hand and I hit the floor in front of thousands of people, I need to take you back. Back to where this really started. Because the tumor wasn't the thing that almost killed me. My family was. My older sister Camille got engaged in March. By April, our entire house, the one I grew up in and rarely visited anymore, had been converted into a wedding planning command center. Fabric swatches on the dining room table. Guest list spreadsheets open on every device. My mother, Renata, moving through every room like a woman possessed by the ghost of an event planner. I drove home that weekend to study for finals and found myself holding a stack of cater brochures before I even put my bag down. Can you call these 3 and get quotes? Mom handed them to me, without looking up. Camille has her fitting on Saturday, and I'll be with her all day.
Mom.
Finals are in 2 weeks. You'll be fine. You always figure it out. There it was. That sentence. The one that had been following me my entire life, like a shadow. You'll be fine. You always figure it out. It sounds like a compliment. It isn't. It's a dismissal dressed up as praise. I had been figuring it out since I was 18. Full academic scholarship. 2 part-time jobs. My own apartment by sophomore year. Not because my parents couldn't help. They could, and they proved it every semester with Camille. But because somewhere along the way, it was decided that I didn't need it. That I was the capable one. The independent one. The forgotten one. Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice even. Graduation is in 4 weeks. I need to talk to you about what I'm wearing. Maybe we could. Nadia. Her tone went flat. Your sister's engagement dinner is the same week as your graduation. I'm stretched thin. You're so good at finding things online. I'm sure you'll find something. She went back to the brochures. I stood there for a moment, her daughter, the valedictorian, invisible in her own kitchen, and then I nodded and walked out of the room. That night, from my apartment, I called the one person who always picked up on the second ring. Nadia Bear. Grandpa Cecil's voice was like sinking into a warm chair. I was just thinking about you. Something in me nodded the second I heard him. Tell me everything, he said. How are the finals? How's the speech? For the next half hour, I actually talked about my thesis, about how terrified I was of standing in front of that crowd, about the speech I kept rewriting because nothing felt right. He listened the way almost no one in my life listened, fully, quietly, without waiting for his turn. Do you have your dress yet? He asked when I finally wound down. I'm fine, Grandpa. A pause. The kind that told me he didn't believe me. Your grandmother would have been so proud of you, he said softly. She always said you had her fire. Stubborn and bright and completely unwilling to be small. I never met Grandma Vera. She passed before I turned one. But I've seen the photos. Everyone says I look like her. The sharp jaw, the dark eyes, the expression that looks like I'm solving a problem even when I'm smiling. I'll be in the front row, Grandpa Cecil said. Wild horses, Nadia. Grandpa, the drive is 4 hours. I'm leaving the night before. I've already booked the hotel. A pause. And I have something for you. Something your grandmother left. She made me promise to wait until you graduated. I've been holding on to it for a long time. Before I could ask what it was, my phone buzzed with a text from Camille. Did you call the caterers yet? Mom needs those quotes by tomorrow. No hello. No how are you. Just orders. Grandpa heard my silence. We'll talk after the ceremony, he said gently. For now, just know you are not alone in this, sweetheart. You never were. I hung up the phone and stared at the ceiling for a long time. Before I continue with this story, kindly tell me where you are watching from. Leave your city in the comments below. If you love this story, kindly like the video and subscribe for more. Alright, let's get back to the story. 1 week before graduation. I was running on coffee and spite, and about 3 hours of sleep per night. My best friend Jolene had taken one look at me that week and said, with the particular directness she reserved for serious emergencies, "You look like a person who is about to not be okay." "I'm fine." You said that in the exact tone people use right before they pass out. She wasn't wrong. My head had been pounding for 5 days straight. I'd had 2 nosebleeds in a week, one at work, one in the middle of reviewing my thesis. I told myself it was the season. I told myself it was stress. I told myself a lot of things that weren't true. Mom called while I was closing up at the coffee shop. "We need you home this weekend. The engagement dinner is Saturday. I need help with setup." "Mom, I'm working." "Call in. Camille needs you." I gripped the phone so hard the case creaked. "What about what I need?" "My graduation is in." "Nadia, don't be dramatic." Her voice went cool. "Your sister only gets engaged once. It's 1 weekend. And you only get 1 valedictorian speech," I thought.
"But I didn't say it."
"I never said it."
"Fine," I said.
"I'll be there." I hung up and immediately felt the headache spike. A hot, pulsing pressure behind my left eye that made the fluorescent lights above me feel like weapons. Jolene appeared at my elbow. "You okay?" "Just tired." She looked at me the way you look at someone you're not sure you believe. That night, I had a nosebleed that lasted 22 minutes. I sat on the cold tile of my bathroom floor with my head tilted back, watching the minutes count up on my phone, telling myself this was normal. This was stress. This was fine. When it stopped, I looked at myself in the mirror. Hollow cheeks. Purple shadows under my eyes. A face that looked borrowed from someone older and more worn out. I should see a doctor, I thought. But graduation was in 6 days. And I had a speech to memorize. I took 3 ibuprofen and went to bed. Jolene came over the next evening uninvited, with soup and a look on her face that meant she wasn't leaving until she'd said what she came to say. "Jamie told me you nearly passed out during the Thursday rush." I got dizzy. It passed. "Nadia." She sat down across from me. "You are running yourself into the ground for people who are not coming to your graduation." "They're coming." "Are they?" She leaned forward. "In 4 years, have they come to a single ceremony? The fellowship award? The dean's list reception? The scholarship dinner?" I opened my mouth.
Closed it.
"You and Grandpa Cecil. That's who was there. Every single time." Her voice softened. "You don't have to keep proving yourself to people who've already decided not to see you." My eyes stung. I blinked until they stopped. After she left, I opened my contacts and moved Grandpa Cecil to the top. Then, on an impulse I couldn't fully explain, I logged into the university portal and updated my emergency contact form. I added him as a 3rd contact, after my parents, after Camille, and felt something settle in my chest. Just in case. On Camille's engagement dinner, I spent 6 hours on my feet, setting chairs, coordinating with the caterer, refilling glasses, keeping the whole evening running like a machine that no one was supposed to see the gears of. The backyard was beautiful.
I'll give them that.
String lights, cascading white flowers, a cake that cost more than 2 months of my rent. 40 guests in cocktail attire, laughing and clinking glasses and celebrating my sister's future. Nobody asked about mine. Camille found me near the drinks table mid-evening and pulled me into the circle of guests with her arm around my shoulder. Everyone, this is my little sister Nadia. She does literally everything. I have no idea how this family would function without her. Warm laughter. Polite applause. Then lower, just loud enough to carry. She's going to be a teacher. Isn't that sweet? Wiping little noses for a living. More laughter. Light casual, the kind that isn't meant to wound even as it does. Oh, and she's graduating next week, Camille added, as though remembering a footnote.
Some honor thing.
What's it called? Valedictorian, I said quietly. Right, that. She waved her hand. She's always been the smart one. But smart doesn't get you a ring, does it? The laughter followed me into the kitchen. I leaned against the counter and breathed. Through the window, I noticed an older man watching the exchange with an expression I couldn't quite read. He looked familiar, a colleague of my grandfather's, someone I'd seen at a Christmas dinner years ago. His name came to me slowly, Mr. Ashworth. He raised his glass slightly in my direction. I looked away. My hands were trembling, but that time I wasn't sure it was just embarrassment. After the party, alone in the kitchen with a sink full of dishes, Mom floated in. Her cheeks were flushed with champagne and success. Nadia, I have wonderful news. She leaned against the counter. We're going to Paris. The whole family. Damien is treating us. Flights, hotel, the works. It's to celebrate the engagement. My hands went still in the soapy water. When? We fly out Friday evening. Friday. The night before graduation. I turned around slowly.
Mom.
My graduation is Saturday morning. She waved her hand. I know, sweetheart, but the flights were already locked in by the time we realized. You're skipping my graduation for a vacation. It's not just a vacation. It's for your sister. I'm the valedictorian. I give the speech. I have to be there. And you'll be wonderful. Her voice was patient, which somehow made it worse. You don't need us there, Nadia. You've always been so self-sufficient. Dad appeared in the doorway. He didn't meet my eyes. Grace, your mother and I, he stopped. Corrected himself.
Nadia. We talked about it.
Camille needs the family right now. And I don't. You're strong. He said it like it was a kindness. You don't need us the way she does. The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the counter. The headache behind my left eye ignited into something white and searing. I have an early shift. I managed. I need to go. I walked out before they could say anything else. Sat in my car in the dark for 10 minutes. Then drove to my apartment and cried until there was nothing left. Jolene was furious on my behalf in the way only a best friend can be, efficiently and without wasted energy. A vacation, she said flatly. They're skipping your graduation for a vacation. It's for Camille's engagement.
Nadia.
Stop defending them. I stared at the water stain on my ceiling. It looked like a cracked bell. For years, Jolene continued. For years you worked yourself into the ground. 2 jobs. Full scholarship. And they can't delay 1 trip. I know. Do you know? Because you keep saying it like it's reasonable. I didn't have an answer for that. That night I woke up at 2:47 a.m. with the worst pain of my life. Not a headache. Something beyond that. A pressure so immense it felt like my skull was trying to contain something too large for it. I stumbled to the bathroom, sat on the cold floor, and had a nosebleed that lasted 19 minutes. When it finally stopped, I looked at myself in the mirror. 3 more days, I told myself. I just have to make it 3 more days. I texted Jolene. I'm fine. Going back to sleep. Then I opened my photos and found one of Grandpa Cecil and me from last Easter, him laughing, one hand on my shoulder, looking at me like I was the best thing he'd seen all week. I saved his contact to the top of my favorites. 3 more days. The night before. Grandpa Cecil called while I was running through my speech for the 100th time. "Are you ready?" he asked. "As ready as I'm going to be. I'm already at the hotel. I drove up this afternoon. Wanted to be early, get a good seat." I could hear the smile in his voice. "Front row, Nadia Bear." "Grandpa, you didn't have to." "I wanted to. I have something to give you." He paused. "Something your grandmother set aside. She made me promise to wait until the day you graduated. She knew you'd get here, even before you were born. She just knew." I sat down on the edge of my bed. "What is it?" "You'll see tomorrow." A long pause. "But I want to tell you something else. Did your father ever mention that I offered to help with your tuition?" My chest went cold. "He said you didn't have the money, that you could only help Camille because she asked first." Grandpa made a sound, something between grief and fury. "Is that what he told you?" "It wasn't a question, Grandpa." "Tomorrow," he said quietly. "After the ceremony. We'll talk about everything tomorrow. For now, just know this. You are not alone. You have never been alone." I hung up and sat with the quiet for a long time. My father had told me Grandpa Cecil couldn't afford to help both of us. But Grandpa Cecil's voice had said something else entirely. Where had my money gone? I didn't sleep much that night. But for the first time in weeks, it wasn't because of a headache. Mom's text arrived at 7:14 a.m. "Just landed in Paris. Have the best day, sweetheart. So proud of you." There was a photo attached, the whole family at the airport, grinning. Camille pouting for the camera. Dad giving a thumbs up. Mom radiant and untroubled.
I didn't respond.
Jolene picked me up at 8:30 and immediately frowned when she saw me. "Nadia, you look gray." "I'm nervous." "You look sick." "I'm fine." She made me eat half a banana on the drive over. I managed 3 bites. Campus was alive. Families everywhere, flowers and balloons and parents with cameras pressed to their faces. I kept my eyes forward. In the staging area, I checked my phone one last time. Another text from Mom. "Send pictures. We want to see everything." They wanted to see everything. They just didn't want to be there to see it. I was pulling up my emergency contact form, some old impulse, some leftover instinct, when I spotted him. Grandpa Cecil. Front row. Already seated. Already waving. In his hands, a manila envelope. I exhaled for the first time in days. Grace Donovan, a stage manager, stopped, checked her clipboard. "Sorry, Nadia Vasquez. You're up in 8 minutes." 8 minutes. I could do this. I just had to stay standing long enough. The stage. 4,000 people. The sun blazing off 1,000 white chairs. My cap too tight. My gown pulling heat from the air like a black sail. The dean finished the introduction. "And now, your valedictorian, Nadia Vasquez." The applause was a wave. I walked to the podium. 1 step.
2.
I found Grandpa Cecil in the crowd. He was beaming. Jolene was beside him. Phone raised, recording. 2 empty seats to their left.
Reserved.
Unclaimed. I gripped the microphone. "Thank you for being here today." My voice carried, clear and steady. "I stand before you not because of what I achieved alone, but because of the people who believed in me when—" The stage tilted. It happened so fast. One moment I was speaking. The next, my vision tunneled down to a pinhole, and the microphone was slipping from my fingers, and I was thinking very clearly and very calmly, "This is not stress." I heard my own voice from somewhere far away, when I couldn't believe in myself. Then the pain.
White.
Absolute. I saw Grandpa Cecil's face, confusion folding into terror. I saw Jolene rising from her seat. I saw the 2 empty chairs. And then the floor came up to meet me. The sound I made when I hit it, I know because Jolene described it to me later, her voice shaking, was the sound that made 4,000 people go silent all at once. Then screaming. Distant and strange, like it was happening in another room. "Call 911. Someone call her family. Is there a doctor?" Jolene's hands on my face.
Nadia.
Nadia, stay with me. Grandpa Cecil's hand around mine. Warm and steady. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm right here. I tried to speak. Tried to say I was okay. The darkness was faster. The last thing I heard before it took me was a stranger's voice, urgent and frightened. We're trying to reach your parents. Does anyone have a direct number? They won't answer, I thought. And then I was gone. Jolene told me all of this later, in pieces, on the days when I could bear to hear it. The ambulance took 11 minutes. I was unconscious the entire time. At the hospital, the CT scan took 20 minutes. The MRI took 40. The neurosurgeon came out to the waiting room where Jolene and Grandpa Cecil were sitting, still in their graduation clothes, and said 4 words that changed everything. She has a brain tumor. Jolene told me she felt the floor drop out from under her. It's pressing on the frontal lobe, the surgeon explained. We need to operate immediately. We need family consent. Jolene called my parents. Voicemail, voicemail, voicemail. She left a message that she said was the most desperate thing she'd ever spoken into a phone. Grandpa Cecil called my father directly. Dad picked up on the 4th ring. Douglas, Nadia is in the hospital. She collapsed at graduation. It's a brain tumor. They're operating in less than an hour. Silence. Then, Dad, we're at the gate. The flight boards in 20 minutes.
Can you handle it?
She'll be out of surgery by the time we land anyway. Jolene told me Grandpa Cecil's face went to stone. Your daughter is about to have emergency brain surgery, he said, slowly, and you're asking me to handle it. Dad, there's nothing we can do from here. Douglas, if you get on that plane, don't call me again. They got on the plane. All of them. Grandpa Cecil signed the consent forms as my emergency contact. Because 3 weeks earlier, on a quiet impulse I couldn't explain, I had added him. When they wheeled me into surgery, 2 people were waiting, my grandfather and my best friend. My family was climbing to 35,000 feet, choosing Paris over me. White ceiling, white walls, white sheets. Somewhere, a machine beeping in a slow, reliable rhythm. The second thing I saw was Grandpa Cecil, asleep in a chair beside me, still in the blazer he'd worn to graduation. 3 days later, and he hadn't left. The third thing was Jolene, curled on a cot in the corner, dark circles carved beneath her eyes. I tried to speak.
It came out as a rasp.
Jolene's eyes opened. 1 second. Then she was at my side, crying without sound.
Nadia. Just my name.
That was all she could get out. Grandpa Cecil woke. His face crumpled, not with sorrow but with relief so pure it looked like grief. My girl, he whispered. My brave, stubborn girl. What happened? I mouthed. They exchanged a look, the kind of look that comes before hard news. Brain tumor, Jolene said carefully. They removed it. You're going to be okay.
Surgery.
3 days ago. You were out for 3 days. I looked at my phone on the nightstand.
I didn't want to.
I opened Instagram. Anyway. Posted 18 hours ago. My mother, my father, my sister Camille, all of them, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower at golden hour. Champagne. Smiles. A caption that read, Family time in Paris. No stress, no drama. So grateful. 263 likes. Not one mention of me. Not one. Grandpa Cecil saw my face. He said nothing. He didn't have to. I closed the app. I didn't cry. I was too tired to cry. But something inside me, something I'd been carrying for 22 years, some last fragile hope, went very quiet and very still. And I understood, for the first time without any ambiguity, that it was over. Whatever I'd been waiting for them to become, they weren't going to become it. That should have broken me. It didn't. It freed me. 4 days into my recovery, the calls started. 5 from my father. Then 12. Then 30. Then 65 missed calls, stacked on my screen like an accusation, along with 23 text messages, none of which asked how I was, none of which said they were sorry, all of which said some version of call us immediately, and this is urgent, and we need to talk. Grandpa Cecil watched me scroll through them. His jaw was tight. Grandpa, I said, why are they really calling? He pulled his chair closer and took my hand. 22 years ago, he began, when you were born, your grandmother and I opened an account in your name. A graduation gift. She called it your freedom fund. Enough to buy a house, start a business, build a life without asking permission from anyone. The room felt very still. Dad told me you didn't have money to help both of us, I said slowly. That you gave what you could to Camille because she asked. Grandpa Cecil's voice dropped. I wrote 2 checks, Nadia. Same amount. 1 for each of you. Then where did mine go? He pulled out his phone and showed me a bank statement. 2 withdrawals. Same date.
4 years ago.
Both checks were cashed, he said. Camille's portion went to her tuition.
Yours, he paused.
I have my suspicions. I thought about the kitchen renovation, the designer bags, the Paris vacation booked on a good deal. They spent it, I said. I believe so. And the Freedom Fund, they didn't know about it. I never told them. I knew even then. Your grandmother knew. This money was always meant to go directly to you. No intermediaries, no hands in between. He exhaled. I told your father about it when you were in surgery. I was angry. I said if you didn't come home, I'd ensure you received everything. That's why they're calling. Not for me.
For the money.
Yes. I sat with that for a long moment. Then I picked up my phone and set it face down on the table. Tell me about the envelope, I said. The one from Grandma Vera. He reached into his jacket and produced it. The same one he'd carried to graduation. She set this aside 25 years ago, he said. She knew you'd get here. I held it without opening it. And there's a letter, he added. I found it while packing. She wrote it before you were born, addressed to her future granddaughter. She just knew, Nadia. She always knew. I heard them before I saw them. Mom's heels on the corridor floor. Her voice, pitched too loud, asking which room. Jolene stood up. I shook my head slightly, stay, and she settled back against the window. The door opened. Mom came first. Face arranged into perfect, practiced maternal anguish. She leaned down toward me. I didn't lean into her.
Nadia, baby.
We came as fast as we could. 5 days after I had emergency brain surgery, I said quietly. The flights were... You posted from the Louvre yesterday. Her expression flickered. Dad came in behind her. He looked older. He couldn't meet my eyes. Then Camille, and I will never forget this. Camille walked into a hospital room carrying shopping bags. Actual shopping bags. Hey, she said. You look better than I thought. Jolene made a sound in the corner that she swallowed quickly. Camille, I said. I had brain surgery. I know. That's so wild, right? She set the bags down. We cut the trip short, so. A shrug. You're welcome. The room was very quiet. Then the door opened again. Grandpa Cecil. The temperature shifted. Dad straightened. Dad.
Douglas.
Grandpa's voice was stripped of everything warm. Renata. Camille. He crossed to my bedside without looking at them. Took my hand. I see you found time in your schedule. Mom started to speak. He cut her off. Don't. What happened next, I hadn't planned. I hadn't rehearsed. But I had been living it for 22 years, and some part of me had always known it would come to this moment, in a hospital room, with tubes in my arm and my grandfather's hand in mine. Grandpa asked my father to name my birthday. My father said March, then April. October 15th, I said. He had the decency to look ashamed. Grandpa asked what my best friend's name was, what my favorite book was, what job I'd accepted after graduation. Silence. She's known all of those things for 4 years, Grandpa said, nodding toward Jolene. And she's not blood. Camille rolled her eyes. This is ridiculous. We didn't fly back for a quiz. No, Grandpa said. You flew back because you heard about the money. The word fell like a stone into still water. Mom's face went pale. That inheritance belongs to the family, she said, after a moment. That inheritance belongs to Nadia. Her grandmother left it for her. Not for a destination wedding. Not for a kitchen renovation. His voice rose for the first time. For her. And that was when my mother broke. Not the way I expected, not with guilt, but with something older and rawer than guilt. You want to know the truth, Howard? She said.
Her voice was shaking. Fine.
You want to know why I've always kept my distance from Nadia? Dad reached for her arm. She shook him off. Every time I look at her, Mom said, eyes wet, I see Vera. The room went still. Your mother, she continued, voice cracking. The woman who spent 26 years making me feel like I was never good enough for her son. Who looked at me like I was something she'd stepped in. Who never once, not once, made me feel welcome in this family. Grandpa Cecil didn't move. And then she died, and I thought finally I can breathe. And then Nadia was born, and she looked exactly like her. Same eyes.
Same jaw.
Same everything. That's not Nadia's fault, Jolene said quietly from the window.
I know that, Mom said.
And then quieter. I know. I let the silence settle. Then I pushed myself up against the pillows. Mom, I said, I understand that Grandma Vera hurt you. I believe that it was real, and I believe it was unfair. Hope moved across her face. But I am not her. I have never been her. And I spent 22 years paying for something I didn't do. The hope dimmed. I worked 2 jobs. I maintained a perfect GPA. I showed up to every family event. I carried every errand, every party, every crisis. I did all of it because I thought if I just tried hard enough, you would finally see me.
My voice was steady.
I was wrong. You were never going to see me. You were always going to see her. I turned to my father. And you watched. For 22 years you watched and you said nothing. You told yourself I was strong, that I didn't need you. But that was just an excuse to not have to choose. He flinched. He didn't deny it. I don't hate you, I said. Any of you. But I can't keep performing for an audience that isn't watching. And I won't. A long silence. What do you want? Dad asked. His voice was very quiet. I want you to see me. Not Vera's ghost. Not Camille's backup. Me. I looked at each of them in turn. And if you can't, then I'll grieve the family I needed, and I'll build the one I have. Camille was the first to leave. She grabbed her shopping bags, jaw tight, and walked out without another word. I didn't stop her. Mom left next, real tears by then, the kind that don't perform. She stopped at the door. I'm sorry, she said. Small and genuine. I know it doesn't fix anything. Not yet, I agreed. But if you mean it, go talk to someone. Work through what Vera made you feel. So you stop pouring it on me. She nodded. She left. Dad sat down in the chair beside my bed. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in an hour. I failed you, he said. Yes. I knew. I told myself you were fine, that you were strong, but I knew. I know you knew. He looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time. Can I try to do better? I studied his face. The remorse was real. It wasn't enough, but it was real. Call me next week, I said. Ask me how I'm doing. And actually listen. He nodded.
Stood.
Squeezed my hand once. Then he was gone. Grandpa Cecil pulled the manila envelope from his jacket and set it in my hands. It's yours, he said. Your grandmother always knew you'd need it. Not to be rescued, just to be free. I held it.
Didn't open it yet.
Just held it. There's a letter, too, he said. She wrote it before you were born. I'll bring it when you're stronger. For the first time in 3 days, maybe the first time in months, I felt the muscles in my chest loosen. Thank you, I said. He pressed my hand to his lips. Thank me by getting better. I was discharged 2 weeks later. Clean bill of health. The tumor was benign.
Gone.
I didn't move home. I used a portion of Grandma Vera's gift to rent a small apartment near the school where I'd be teaching in September. 1 bedroom. A kitchen barely big enough to turn around in. A window overlooking a parking lot. It was mine. That was enough. That was everything. The fallout happened on its own schedule. Camille blocked me on every platform. Her wedding to Damien fell apart 3 months later. His family had heard what happened, and his mother apparently had strong opinions about the kind of family she was marrying into. Camille called me when it did, voice small and hollow, expecting me to fix it. I didn't fix it, but I didn't hang up either. I was terrible to you, she said, after a long silence. Yes. I don't know how to explain it. Everything was always just handed to me, and you worked so hard, and she stopped. I think I was jealous. Maybe. Can we ever be okay? I thought about it. For real. I don't know. But if you're willing to do the work, I'm willing to try. Dad called the following Tuesday, right when he said he would. Hi, Grace, he stopped.
Sorry.
Nadia. Hi, Dad. How are you feeling? Better. Still tired. A pause. Then, what did you have for dinner last night?
Such a small question.
He had never asked it before. I almost smiled. Pasta, I said, with Jolene. That sounds nice. It was stilted and careful, and nothing like easy, but it was something. For now, it was enough. 6 months later, my classroom smells like dry erase markers and old books and something I can only describe as potential. 27 8th graders. Reading and writing. First period every morning. Jolene comes in sometimes on Fridays to help me rearrange furniture and eat my snacks without asking. One afternoon, a student named Marcus, quiet kid, always in the back, more careful than any 13-year-old should have to be, knocked on my door after the last bell. Miss Vasquez, can I ask you something? Of course. He shuffled in. Did you ever feel like nobody sees you? Like you could disappear and it wouldn't matter? My heart clenched. Yes, I told him. For a very long time, that's exactly how I felt. What did you do? I thought about Grandpa Cecil in the front row, Jolene on the cot in the corner, the envelope, the letter I'd finally read, written 23 years ago by a woman who never got to meet me, who somehow knew exactly who I would need to become. I found people who did see me, I said. And then, eventually the hardest part, I learned to see myself. He nodded slowly. That sounds hard. It is. But once you know your own worth, you stop needing everyone else to confirm it. He left without another word. I stayed at my desk as the sun lowered and golden light stretched across the rows of empty chairs. On my phone, there's a photo I look at sometimes. Me at 10 months old, in a woman's arms, her face turned toward mine with an expression of complete and unconditional love. Grandma Vera. Taken 6 weeks before she died. In the photo, she's looking at me like I'm the most important thing she's ever seen. I never got to know her, but I know what she left me. Not just the money, not just the letter. The knowledge, written in her own hand, across 23 years, that someone had believed in me before I even drew my first breath. I used to think love was something you had to earn, work for, suffer for, prove yourself worthy of. I know better now. Love is who shows up. Love is who stays. Love is who adds your name to the emergency contact form, just in case, and means it. I don't need to set myself on fire to keep anyone warm anymore. I know what I'm worth. That's everything. That's more than enough. 1 year later, Grandpa Cecil received the Community Educator of the Year award at a ceremony in April. Jolene and I were in the 3rd row, dressed up for once, both of us crying before he even reached the microphone. He found me in the crowd immediately. He always does. I want to dedicate this award, he began, to my granddaughter, Nadia. Jolene grabbed my hand. 1 year ago, I watched this young woman collapse on a stage in front of thousands of people. She had a brain tumor. She nearly died. And she woke up to find that the people who should have been there weren't. He paused. But Nadia didn't give up. She didn't become what she had every right to become. Instead, she built a life full of people who love her for who she is, not for what she can do for them. She's teaching now, shaping 27 kids who come back every morning because she makes them feel like they matter. He lifted the award toward me. Her grandmother once said, "The people the world forgets need us to remember them the most." Nadia taught me what that really means. I hugged him for a long time after. Long enough that people around us probably wondered. "I love you, Grandpa." "I love you, Nadia Bear." He pulled back and looked at me. "Your grandmother would be so proud." I know, I thought. I finally know. Closing. My family is complicated. It probably always will be. Dad calls every Tuesday. He asks what I had for dinner.
Sometimes he asks about my students.
It's slow, and it's careful, and it's real. Mom sends cards on holidays. We're not close. Maybe someday. Camille is in therapy. We text occasionally. It's not warm yet, but it's honest, which is more than we've ever had. My real family, the one that chose me and that I chose, is Grandpa Cecil and Jolene and 27 kids who come to my classroom every day not knowing they're teaching me something, too. Here's what I learned, and I hope you carry it. You cannot earn love from people who have decided not to give it. No amount of perfect grades or silent suffering or showing up will change that. Stop setting yourself on fire, hoping someone will finally feel the warmth. Your real family is not determined by blood. It's determined by who holds your hand in a waiting room, who stays. And you are allowed, you are required, to choose yourself. That's not selfishness. That's survival. That's the whole point. If you've ever been the invisible one, the capable one, the forgotten one, the one who gives and gets nothing back, I see you. I was you. And I'm telling you, from the other side of a surgery I almost didn't wake up from, you are worth more than you've been led to believe. Your worth was never the question. The people who couldn't see it, that was always their failure. Not yours. Never yours. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if this story meant something to you, if it found you at the right moment, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's another story in the description waiting for you. Something tells me you'll want to stay. Until next time.
Nadia.